approach in a dynamically transitive world reflects the country's development priorities. The session will set the framework of the Senior Research Fellow, Asian Studies Center, Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy, the Heritage Foundation USA, and Mr. Naushad Forbes, President, Confederation of Indian Industry and Co-Chairman, Forbes Marshall. I'd now like to hand over the session to Mr. Norman Pearlstein, requesting him to take it over.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here and to be on this stage, especially at such an important time, not only for India and its development, but for an ever-changing and ever-fascinating world that India must interact with. When I think about where we were a year ago, when I was here for Make in India Week, there was no Brexit, there was no Donald Trump, and there were no other clouds for the economy reflective of those kinds of changes. There are obviously issues that Indian companies and the Indian government has to face at all time, but there have been extraordinary changes in these last 12 months, and we will try to analyze and discuss some of these trends and their implications for India. I'd like to begin by asking Lisa Curtis if she could speak for a few minutes, giving a perspective that reflects more than 20 years of following very carefully and writing about South Asia and especially about India. She has also been part of the Heritage Foundation group, which has been deeply involved in the transition from President Obama to that of President Trump. So Lisa, why don't you begin, please?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pearlstein, Dr. Forbes. And thank you to CII, the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, the government of Andhra Pradesh, including the Honorable Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu. It is certainly a great pleasure and honor to be here today addressing you about India at the cusp of global development. Yet I would argue that India is far beyond the cusp of global development. I think India has already established itself as a global contributor to peace, security, and economic development. And this is due to a combination of factors. First, you've had, for the last 20 years, India prioritizing its own economic development and growth, particularly under the current Prime Minister Modi government. And at the same time, you've seen India extending its global leadership role through soft power, through robust diplomatic interactions, and through its large diaspora community, which is contributing ideas, energy, cultural influence across the globe. Prime Minister Modi has reached out with a robust foreign policy. He's made numerous trips across the world in the last 2.5 years. And if we just look at U.S.-India relations, for example, his outreach has been unprecedented. He's made 4 visits to the U.S. in less than 2 years. He addressed a joint session of the U.S. Congress. And of course, we know from Tuesday's phone call between our new President Trump and Prime Minister Modi that he'll likely be coming to the U.S. again very soon. We've seen extraordinary progress on the U.S.-India defense relationship, whether you're talking about the designation of India as a major defense partner, giving it increased access to technology, or the signing of the logistics sharing agreement between our two countries that will give each country access to the other's military bases. The U.S. also will continue to push for India's membership in the Nuclear Suppliers Group, bringing India more fully into the decision-making processes of the non-proliferation global community. And of course, India is already a member of the Missile Technology Control Regime, something that wouldn't have even been dreamed of 15 years ago. So yes, we have seen enormous progress. Now, when talking about India's global influence, I think it's appropriate that we talk about India's growing naval capabilities, and particularly because here we are in Vizag, which is, of course, home to Eastern Naval Command, which looks after the Bay of Bengal and parts of the Indian Ocean. It's also the primary naval command that's involved in the annual Malabar exercises between the U.S. and India, but which now also includes a regular role for Japan. And I'm sure we'll be talking much more about the command's contribution to the extension of India's influence in South and Southeast Asia during tomorrow's panel. So what's the upshot of all this? India is indeed enhancing its global role on the economic front as well as contributing to global security. The U.S. supports this growing role and indeed fully embraces India's rise. So there is much to discuss over the next 2 days. And we know economic growth is more than just raw numbers. What about women's participation in the economy?